Hi, ladies and gentlemen. It is once again a Monday night, 7 Eastern, 6 Central, and that means it's time for Two Tire Change with your guy, Big Rich, here on Driving to the Top Productions Network. And we've got a lot to talk about coming down from Darlington this past weekend, as well as a lot to talk about with Bristol coming up this weekend, the world's largest bull ring, as a lot of people like to call it. And it's going to be fun talking about that this coming weekend because we got all three series running this coming weekend. This past weekend, just the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series running at Darlington, the track too tough to tame, the home of the Darlington Stripe, whatever terminology you want to use for it. It will definitely be a track that will get you, and it did. It got a lot of people this past week. A very interesting race. I thought it was an enjoyable race, but at the same time, um, you really had to look at what's going to happen from here. And Brandon Jones, tremendous race, snaps a 98 race winless streak, and Joe Gibbs Racing gets his spot in the playoffs, of course, with a big win. 28-year-old kid, very popular in the pits and in the garage area, extremely popular with the other drivers and the crews throughout the garage. So a nice win with Brandon Jones. And he's run pretty well this year, and he had some tough luck. He had some tough luck at Daytona, had some tough luck at Atlanta. Um, and it was very interesting to see how he won the race. But it was still good. Everything that he did from start to finish, he just worked hard to get himself up there, which is good. So the standings from the race, you ended up with, yeah, Brandon Jones coming in first. I will get that standings pulled up here, or results sheet here. There we go. Brandon Jones in first, Chase Elliott in second. As you can see, it's also running across the bottom of the screen. A little new feature that we've got going here, where we've got the ticker with the results from the past week, as well as this coming week's schedule. So, little something going on there. Couple little new things going on here at Two Tire Change. We made a Two Tire Change and put a couple new graphics up on the screen. How about that? So anyway, while we're looking at the top 10, Brandon Jones, Chase Elliott came in second. There were a few Cup drivers that ran this race as well. Chase Elliott runs one Xfinity race a year. This just happened to be the one that he ran. Justin Allgaier comes in third. Very easily could have won this race. Very, very easily could have won this race. Ross Chastain in fourth. Carson Kvapil fifth, Connor Zelich sixth, Christian Eckes seventh, Nick Sanchez eighth, Sammy Smith ninth, and Sheldon Creed in 10th. You see a lot of rookies' names in there, which is a good thing. Get those rookies having some success early on in the season. 11th was Jesse Love, Sam Mayer 14th, Austin Hill 16th, Parker Retzlaff comes in 20th. Christopher Bell, another Cup regular, comes in 25th. He had some mechanical issues, could not get the handling right on that car at all. Anthony Alfredo comes in 31st. He's having a rough season. When he ran the 5 car last season, he was starting to really make some strides, really make some things happen. And this season, he just has not done well at all. So I'm really concerned about Anthony Alfredo. I don't know if it's the team, if it's the equipment, what it is, but I really want to see, him get back to where he was last year, where he was contending for wins. Not doing that right now. So let's see how that all plays out. Um, as far as the point standings go, and this is, of course, taking into consideration that Justin Allgaier's got 2 wins, Austin Hill has a couple of wins, Jesse Love, Connor Zilic, now Brandon Jones, all have wins. So they're all locks for the playoffs. So you have 5 guys that have already locked. Following them, Sam Mayer, Sheldon Creed, Carson Quapple, Ryan Sieg, Harrison Burton, Sammy Smith, Jeb Burton, Daniel Dye, and Nick Sanchez are next in line. So those are your guys that would be in the playoffs if the season ended today. And of course, it doesn't. There's still a long way to go before we get to playoff time. And this is gonna be a fun year. You can tell just from the way that the season is starting to develop that there's going to be some really fun races uh, and some really fun competition going on between now and the playoffs. And then once the playoffs hit, it's going to get even crazier because you're going to have a lot of guys that are. I think you're going to have some rookies in there. I really believe that you're going to end up with a guy like maybe a Connor Zilic, maybe a Carson Quapple, um, possibly, maybe. I, I wouldn't be surprised if Nick Sanchez or Christian Eckes wins a race. Maybe Taylor Gray. Um, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple of rookies in the playoffs for the Xfinity Series. Cup Series yesterday, you talk about a tale of 2 races. I promise you this. This was a legitimate tale of 2 races, and it was enough to drive me absolutely nuts simply because my guy dominated. William Byron dominated the first 2 stages. Ends up with an issue in the pit in stage 3, and we'll talk about more about what happened with that. But the top 10 qualifiers for the race: William Byron on the pole, Ryan Preece second, Denny Hamlin third, Chase Briscoe fourth, Bubba Wallace fifth, Austin Cindric sixth, Tyler Reddick in seventh, Kyle Busch in eighth, Ryan Blaney ninth, and Michael McDowell in 10th. Another strong start for Ryan Preece. Preece is really starting to come into his own. I'm really happy for him. I've been following him. I really like what he did in Xfinity. I like what he's done so far in Cup. And as much as I'm not the biggest fan of Brad Keselowski and Chris Buescher, those guys have got experience that Preece can learn from. And it's definitely helping him as the season is going on. He's doing a really nice job, and you'll see where he's at in the points when we get into that here in just a little while. The throwback weekend, of course, a lot of cars that were tributes to different aspects of NASCAR in the past. But we get the race started 4 laps in. And when I saw it, I didn't believe it. I just completely went for a few reasons. But Kyle Larson spins down the backstretch, hits the inside retaining wall, and absolutely just destroyed the front end of his car. Steering is completely destroyed, and he's headed to the garage 4 laps in. One of the race favorites, my guy that I had in every DraftKings DFS that I did, and he ends up, by the time it was all said and done, he ended up almost 170 laps down. So, yeah, not a good deal right out of the box. William Byron takes the lead or retains the lead after the caution, and he gets his lead up to 2 seconds over Ryan Preece. Carson Hocevar ends up spinning on lap 25, and the caution comes out. And Hocevar had hit the wall coming off of turn 2, and the announcer showed that it looked like he cut his tire, reported a cut tire on the radio, and there he went. So they come in for the yellow. Byron comes back out in the lead, and JJ Yaley goes into the wall on the restart. So he works himself around a pit road, and he goes back to the garage. Chris Buescher moving up through the field. He's a little bit better than the leader at this point. And, Byron's still leading, has led every lap so far. Denny Hamlin at lap 58 is just frustrated. And he's fallen to 13th. And the only car that was running good at that point was Ryan Blaney, who had moved himself up to 6th from about 20th. Blaney had a car yesterday that, I kid you not, on long runs, if it was going to be a 50, 60, 70 lap run, he was fine. Even if it was going to be a 35 lap run, he was good. Excuse me. But if it was a 5 or 10 lap run, nowhere near as strong. And boy, did he ever just take care of business on these long runs. So Blaney got himself up in the top 5. We get to lap 70, and Blaney got himself up to 4th at this point, even though that's 10 seconds behind William Byron, who had opened up a monster lead. Zane Smith got himself up to 8th. Chase Briscoe he had issues all day too. Ended up, or he got back to 19th at that point. Chase Elliott was in 24th at that point. Ty Gibbs was, after starting in the top 10, he was outside the top 20. Christopher Bell was 29th. A lot of guys that you would have expected to do well, not so much. Lap 83, more issues for Carson Hocevar. He and Riley Herbst crashed right behind the leader. So, they run out of room, basically. Hocevar gets pushed. He's pushed up toward the wall. Herbst is right there, and there's just no room. So they end up wrecking. Hocevar's talking about some really bad steering issues. Cosmetic damage? No. Steering issues? Yes. And I'm sure he would rather have switched those two things. Just 7 laps to go before the end of the first stage. Byron wins stage 1 easily. Bubba Wallace 2nd, Ryan Preece 3rd, Chris Buescher 4th, Tyler Reddick 5th, Brad Keselowski 6th, Ryan Blaney 7th, Austin Cindric 8th, Zane Smith 9th, and AJ Allmendinger in the 10th position. Another guy that had a really strong race yesterday for a large extent of the race was Bubba Wallace. Ran extremely good for the 2311 team, and he looked like he could be one of those guys that could contend with William Byron. And we'll talk more about how it all finished up as we go on. Byron stays, after the stage ends. Byron's still in front as we get ready to start stage 2. Tyler Reddick, Ryan Blaney, 2nd and 3rd. All 3 RFK, Roush Fenway, Keselowski Fords are right behind them. That's Keselowski, Buescher, and Preece. So you got pit stops coming at lap 135. William Byron is the only car from the top 10 who did not pit with everybody else. So he finally gets in there, and he finally gets in to get his stop, but it's right after Brad Keselowski spins after going on pit road. He didn't lose the right rear wheel or the left rear wheel. He lost the left rear nut. These wheels are only held on by one nut. It's a lot like the Indy cars. And there's only one nut right in the middle. And they used to have it where it was 5 nuts around the lug. They don't have that anymore. The last few years, one nut, boom. Well, in this particular case, the nut came off, the wheel did not. So obviously this brings out a yellow. But it just, you could see on the video after, it just popped right off. So I don't know if I have no idea what could have caused that. I haven't heard anything about it. My guess would be that it was loose and just sprung off bouncing off of the rim. I don't know, but anyway, the debris causes the caution. Um, but now Keselowski's in 36th and he's 4 laps down. A few cars didn't stop, Byron, a few others who had just stopped right before that. So um, Chase Elliott came in to secure a wheel. So he ended up starting a little further back. They did their pit stop. He got back out there, feels a vibration. They come back in, may as well check it now. They come in, they check it, tighten that lug nut. There he goes. Yes, he lost a few spots, but better than doing what some guys have done before where they lose the wheel, wreck into the wall, and we all know what happens when that happens. We're up to 155, and Byron has led every single lap of this race. 9 tenths of a second lead over Logano and Hamlin at lap 155. Lap 185, end of stage 2. Guess who's out front? That's right, still old Willie B. And he is, led every lap. Logano was closing in, but didn't have enough time to catch him. Logano comes in second, Hamlin third, Blaney fourth, Josh Berry in fifth, Christopher Bell sixth, Ty Gibbs seventh, Ty Dillon in eighth, Tyler Reddick ninth, and Alex Bowman in 10th. So we go 10 laps later at 195, and Josh Berry and Tyler Reddick make contact. Berry ends up spinning off the turn 2, hits the inside wall, very similar to what Kyle Larson did on lap 4, and just tore up his car. And he had been running extremely well, running in the top 10, got himself some stage points. I firmly believe Reddick hit him. I could see it, as they were running, and it definitely looked like that Tyler Reddick took a chunk out of Josh Berry. We're up to lap 210. Guess who's still out front? Yeah, it's William Byron. He leads Christopher Bell by about half a second as they keep, they're progressing toward the end of stage 3 and the end of the race. Alex Bowman brushes the wall, the Darlington stripe. There were almost 30 Darlington stripes yesterday. A guy's scraping off the wall coming off the turn. 48 team says we got a toe link issue in the right rear. And this is the first time he's been inside the top 10. Well, guess what? That stops now. The pit stops start as a lot of guys were going for a 2-stop final stage. Some did just one. Lap 232. William Byron comes down on lap 245. Denny Hamlin comes down on lap 250. And then once he does, you've got Tyler Reddick in the lead, Joey Logano second, Christopher Bell getting ahead of William Byron to third. All 4 of the drivers in the front, completely different tire wear. It was not a lot of lap difference, but it is some. So you get to lap 270. Reddick has a 6-second lead ahead of Christopher Bell in second. The tire difference hasn't really made a big difference. Byron is running third, but the guy, remember we were talking about those long runs? Here comes Ryan Blaney, and he came from way back. And you could just see he was picking drivers off, one after the other, after the other. Didn't matter. It didn't matter if it was lap traffic, cars on the lead lap, he's just picking them off. It's not a case where he's got to really race hard to get past them. No. He's got up to fourth, 20 laps left, and has almost 8-second deficit to make up. Everybody's doing the math. I'm sitting here at the house going, Blaney's going to catch him. It's just a matter of if he can get past him. We get to 13 laps to go at lap 282. Now the lead is only 4 seconds. 5 laps later, lap 287, 1.8 second difference between Ryan Blaney and Tyler Reddick. So you see, Within, what is that, 12 laps, he made up 6 seconds. I mean, this is how strong that car was on long runs. So, caution, lap 291. And there were 4 laps left. Blaney had just passed Tyler Reddick as he scraped the wall in turn 2. Bubba Wallace spun Kyle Larson right behind the leaders. And now Bubba Wallace is teammates with Tyler Reddick. Kyle Larson was about 300 laps down. I kid. He was about 170 laps down. But you just sit there and shake your head. Because Blaney's car is really good on long runs, not on short runs. So we'll see how this plays out. Denny Hamlin gets off pit road first. His crew did a fantastic job, gets him off of pit road first. Tyler Reddick second, William Byron third, and Blaney slips back to fourth. So we go to overtime. And we end up with Hamlin getting a really big jump on the restart and just pulled away as the other 3 guys are running side by side. And as we all know, when they start running side by side, it gives a chance for the cars that are running single file to get away, which is not a good thing. So, Denny Hamlin, as much as I hate to talk about it, goes back to back and wins at Darlington. Byron comes in second. It was one of those races that, for the longest part of the race, Byron was going to win this thing. And really, the only car that could have beat him if they would have stayed on a long run was Ryan Blaney. And then Byron had that faux pas on pit road. And it messed everything up for him. So we end up with Hamlin, Byron, Bell, Reddick, Blaney, Buescher, Chastain, Chase Elliott in 8th, Gibbs in 9th, his by far best finish of the season, and Kyle Busch in 10th. Other big names, Joey Logano in 13th, the defending champion. Shane Van Gisbergen comes in 20th. Bubba Wallace ends up 21st. Ryan Preece winds up 26th. Chase Briscoe 28th. And then Kyle Larson 37th. But that one point, I had a lot of people asking me, why'd Larson come out after he smashed into the wall and he's going to be 100 and something laps down? He had the ability to pass JJ Yaley, whose car went down, and get that 1 point. Kyle Larson above everybody else. He lost the regular season championship last year by 1 point. He knows the value of that one singular point. I say all that to say, yeah, you're driving around the track at 170 laps down. But you got to look big picture with these races too. And yes, he's locked in because he has a win. So he's locked into the playoffs. But at the same time, he has to sit there and think about playoffs and what's going to happen with his seeding, what's going to happen with everything else as they get into the postseason. So he does do that. As we sit right this second, Byron has a win. Denny Hamlin now has 2. Christopher Bell has 3. Kyle Larson has a win. And so does Josh Berry. So those guys are all locked in. We got five winners in the Cup Series, 5 winners in the Xfinity Series. Remember to keep track of that, folks. Because remember, I said we're going to have 17 or more winners in the Cup Series. I still stand by that. Once you get past the winners, current leaders for the season are Chase Elliott, Tyler Reddick, Ryan Blaney, Bubba Wallace, Joey Logano, Alex Bowman, Chris Buescher, Ross Chastain, Ryan Preece, Chase Briscoe, and Kyle Busch. So we talked about Preece earlier and what he has done. He's got himself to where he is actually in the hunt. He would be in the playoffs. He has one top five, three top tens. So, and he's only had one DNF. So he's running really well and he's doing nothing but getting more experience. Now, Josh had a question about could Denny do what Christopher Bell did earlier in the season, winning 3 races in a row? Could he? Yeah, because he does run well at Bristol, which is what's coming up this week. Um, will he? One thing that a lot of and we'll talk more about this in a minute. But one thing a lot of people have to understand about Bristol is that it is a crapshoot. It really is a crapshoot. And I say that because you never know. There's going to be guys that are going to take each other out. You will have a big one at Bristol, but they're going half the speed that they're going at Daytona or Talladega. Maybe even less than half that speed because their top speed is about 80, 85, 90 mile an hour. They may crack 100 every now and then if they got open room on the straight, but they don't have a lot of time. You're running a half-mile track. Don't have a lot of time to accelerate. So, can Denny Hamlin do it, Josh? Yes. Will he do it? I don't think so. And that's just me. Um, so it's not the fact that I'm not a Hamlin fan. Um, I put Denny Hamlin just above Christopher Bell as far as guys that I don't pull for. But at the same time, um, I look at just what's the best word to use? Probably looking at the probabilities and the inconsistency that there is in that race. And when you look at the winners, okay, over the last, several years, here we go. But that's the spring race last year. In fact, last year, if I remember right, was Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin won last year's spring race. Christopher Bell was the year before. Then Kyle Busch before him. Joey Logano before him. That was the race they ran on dirt. Kyle Busch was also on dirt, which those Bristol dirt races were stupid. Brad Keselowski run in 2020. Kyle Busch won in 19 and in 18. Jimmy Johnson in 17, Carl Edwards in 16, and Matt Kenseth in 15. So you see there's a lot of different guys. Is this going to be the race where Kyle Busch breaks this winless streak? Extremely possible. Is it the race where Christopher Bell wins his 4th of the season? Very possible. Like I say, Bristol is a track, and it's weird to say this, but Bristol is a track that's similar to Daytona or Talladega, that you really don't know. You can have the best car out there, and it don't matter. I have seen drivers, and I've seen cars win races at Bristol that look like they should be in a junkyard somewhere. They've got the whole front ripped off of it. There's no hood at all, no quarter panels. Um, they look like they just have been beaten, battered, and run through a demolition derby. At the same time, I've also seen guys with clean cars, which is a rarity at Bristol, by the way. But, you know, as we're talking about this, the Bristol race is, especially the Food City 500, it's a traditional race and it's a big deal to win. It's a long race, it's a grueling race, and it's going to be a fun race to watch and asked. But at the same time, it's kind of a survival of the fittest type of a deal. Currently, and this is all based from sportsbettingdime.com. But currently, the favorites for the race on Sunday. Let me double check this. Yeah. Kyle Larson at 4-1, William Byron at 6.5-1, Ryan Blaney at 7-1, Denny Hamlin. I'm sorry, Tyler Reddick's also 7-1, Denny Hamlin 8-1, Christopher Bell 5.5-1. I'm not sure why they have him out of the list. Chris Buescher is 11-1, and Brad Keselowski is 12-1. So, I say all that to say this is one of those. This is one of those races, man. And whenever you start looking at, I know we've talked about DFS quite a bit um, during the programs, and hopefully you guys have done really well with your DFS teams. Mine, I had a lot of Larson. I've just had some bad luck the last couple weeks, including yesterday. At one point in the race, I had first, second, fourth, fifth, seventh, and last. That was before Kyle Larson came out. I'm just scratching my head trying to figure out what's going on. But at the same time, there are guys that run well at this track, but there's also guys that are the hot hand right now. When you look at what some of these guys are doing, and again, I've told you, whenever you're looking at those, you have to. They have a thing there called game log that you can look and see what drivers have done in terms of moving forward in the pack from their previous race. If they constantly start well, they qualify well, but then they end up, say they qualify 10th, but they always finish 25th, it's not going to do you any good. Now, if they're the reverse of that, that's a guy that you want. But of course, there's always those guys that you do want at the same time. You want a William Byron, you want a Kyle Larson, you want a Denny Hamlin or a Christopher Bell or a Joey Logano or Kyle Busch or somebody like that. But in order to get those guys, you have to try and get some of those guys that are inexpensive. The best I've been able to come up with, and I've been doing this for a long time, the best I've been able to come up with was to have 4 of those higher dollar guys with 2 reasonably priced cheapos that I thought could get me somewhere. The bad part about my strategy here the last few months or last few years, but especially this year, Ryan Preece is working himself up the list. He's not one of the El Cheapos anymore. He's more in the mid-range guys. So if I'm going to take, and this is just, I'm scatter shooting on this one, but if I was to take my 300 guys, okay, Larson, Elliott, Byron, they're going to be in the top 5 or 6 highest salaried guys, okay? So if I'm going to take those 3, and then I'm going to take someone like a Kyle Busch who is at the top of the mid tier. So now I'm going to have to work on my El Cheapos, okay? There's guys there that you can take that could do well for you. John Hunter Nemechek. At this point, Carson Hocevar, because he's just not finishing races well. You could get a guy like an AJ Allmendinger who hasn't really done that well the last several races either. Those kind of guys you can get to put in your lineup and allow you to have those upper tier guys. The real problem comes into play when one of those upper tier guys does like Kyle Larson did this week. I mean, I'm sure that wrecked a lot of people's DFS games this past week, just simply because, What are you going to do? You're 4 laps into the race, and one of the favorites gets in a wreck and gets knocked out. Well, that's whatever you put into it. You can throw that away because you're not going to win it. If your other guys do really well, you might get your money back, but that's about it. Um, with that being said, though, when you do your DraftKings, be looking out for that, especially this week. I can see a couple of different really nice top fours that you could put together based off the odds that would allow you to get some pretty decent um, lower tier guys. So just kind of keep that in mind as well. This coming week at Bristol, you've got the Truck Series, you got the Xfinity Series, and you're going to have Cup Series. So 3 big races there. The following week is Easter weekend. There's no racing that weekend. We will still have a show. We'll get you ready for the following week, and we'll talk about the first quarter of the season awards and that kind of good stuff, because that will also be just past the quarter pole on the season. That'll be 10 races. I'm sorry, no, Bristol will be 9. So that'll be right at the quarter pole of the season. We can talk about those guys. We're going to talk about some futures. We're going to talk about guys that really have to get it together, that kind of stuff. So we'll get it. We'll get it going. We're still going to have a show that Easter Monday. We'll still talk about. We won't obviously have anything to talk about that week in terms of the Sunday races, but we'll still have the ability to do some things as well. So I realize we got a little bit shorter show than normal tonight, but at the same time, I definitely appreciate everybody that's been a part of this thing tonight, and definitely appreciate everybody jumping in and watching and sending us comments throughout the course of the week. Because even if you can't catch it here Monday, 7 Eastern, 6 Central, you can catch it on Driving to the Top Productions on YouTube. You can get it on my Twitter feed at BigRich8371. And you can also get the feed on my Facebook page, where it's just my name, Rich Richardson. And you can get the show on any of those places. And please feel free. Questions, comments, concerns, something you like, something you don't like, let me know. I mean, I'm definitely open to ideas. I'm open to suggestions. If there's something you'd like for me to start doing on the show, great. If you think there's something that I need to get rid of, let me know about that too. I will definitely take everything under advisement. But again, it was a great race weekend at Darlington, Saturday and Sunday. Looking forward to this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday at Bristol. And we will talk more next Monday, 7 Eastern, 6 Central. Also, you can catch me tomorrow night, open mic night on Driving to the Top Productions, starting at 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central. Wednesday night, myself and Adam, we do Steel City Sports Talk, where we talk Pittsburgh sports. That's also 9 Eastern and 8 Central on Wednesday night. And be looking out for our WrestleMania preview that'll be hitting either Friday evening or Saturday morning to get you set for both nights of WrestleMania in Vegas. But until next Monday for Two Tire Change, my name is Big Rich. We will catch you next week. So long, everybody.